notification.
Okay, we are live now.
All right. How's the weather in Buenos Aires gone on? Is it freezing cold?
No, not really. At this moment, considering my Apple Watch, it says that we have 16 degrees Celsius degrees. So
not too bad.
Not too bad. Yeah. Bearable, completely bearable.
But in the morning, it was super cloudy and raining.
Oh, really?
Yeah, these days are the most complicated ones because the dispersion is quite high. You know, you have 9 degrees in the morning and 16 during the day. So it's kind of difficult because you don't know what to wear, you know, to go out. But yeah.
Interesting. In the Northeast of the United States, for Carol and I, it's been very unpredictable. It's been very hot, but also very rainy. Where I am in Brooklyn yesterday, we had a tornado, which was very, very odd. You can see those, probably find those videos on Instagram. It's pretty intense. But this is kind of how things are going these days. Today's very hot. Tomorrow's supposed to be very hot. Also,
something happened with the tornado. Did something happen?
I mean, nothing for me, thankfully, but some people who live closer to the water certainly had some flooding and some damage. It was very brief, like that this they called it a cyclone, which I guess is smaller than a tornado. I'm not very educated in that, but
and in the water, right?
Yeah. Heavy winds and these things. But anyway, looks like we have a few people coming in. Thanks everyone for coming in. We'll get started in a few minutes. Just give everyone a chance to log in. To go to a little poll we'd like to throw out there, just sort of understand what industries some of you work in. Would love to know that, so we can keep that in mind as we go through some of these questions. In the meantime, I've been dying to ask the three of you this earlier, especially we're speaking about intrapreneurship and digital transformation and entrepreneurship. What do you think of this? What's your opinion of this Twitter becoming X and Elon Musk is genius or insane? I just don't even know anymore. Carol, what do you think?
You put me on the spot. I respect Elon Musk a lot, so I always respect when these big entrepreneurs begin doing something different, or they change they always usually have like 3 or 4 moves ahead, right?
Yeah.
It's like a chess. So I think that he knows what he's doing. I don't think he's crazy, and I think that he knows why he's doing what he's doing. So the problem is that I don't know the 3 steps. I probably can see 1. I don't know the 2 or 3 that he's thinking of. So that's why people usually cannot. I think many times we cannot make an opinion on these big entrepreneurs because they are always ahead of the curve.
Yeah,
that is my experience.
It's a really good point, right? They don't become that successful by accident. So yes, they make bad decisions along the way, but they certainly have the experience and the courage, right, to make these sweeping decisions, which are fast. Say again?
What do you think about it?
Well, I come from a background in television and media and marketing and branding, and the logo for me is like almost makes me want to cry because there's so much great brand equity in that bird that, like, I don't know why you would ever want to lose that. But I find that, again, like I was saying, he's proven he's known what he's doing more times than not. But it really just, certainly getting headlines, right? And then it's out of like the PR pages of like, no press is bad press. So he's certainly and while, Threads stole a bunch of his headlines and, some other complications with his life. And, of course, ChatGPT kind of pulling a lot of attention away from him. He certainly found a way to put himself back into the conversation very, very effectively.
Exactly. Gonzalo, Ana, what do you think?
I really like Elon Musk. I respect him a lot. I think that sometimes the way he does things might generate collateral damage, and that's not very good, like for the community in general. I really want to see what this super app is going to be. I think super apps are like super interesting, but they still don't nail it that much. I'm super curious what that super app will be like, and how would it like work. But I don't know. I think like Carola, like they are always 4 steps ahead of us. So I respect the risk.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he and the people around him are always one or couple of steps ahead from us, from regular people. I do think that I'm not sure who said this, or Carola or Travis, that he likes to be on spotlight. So a couple of weeks ago, Threads appeared. So and ChatGPT moved the floor a couple of months ago. He needs to be in spotlight again. So we'll see what this is all about. But yeah, he knows things that we don't. So
Totally agree. Well, looks like we have a fair amount of people in. It's about 6 after. So let's get into this. Appreciate all 3 panelists joining us today. Today on our monthly Amalgama webinar series, we're going to be speaking around the topic of driving innovation through intrapreneurship and digital transformation. I'm Travis Pomposillo. I'm the head of growth and innovation at Amalgama, and I'll be moderating today. And I'm going to introduce our panelists. First, I'd like to introduce Carola, who is the co-founder of COX4. She's a business angel and former partner, ecosystem vice president at Pega and IBM. Carola, thanks for joining us. Super curious myself, but also I'm sure our audience is. Can you tell us a little about what COX4 does and what your mission is there?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. And I'm so happy that I'm here with Amalgama. That, by the way, you did my webpage, so I'm so grateful and so happy with my new webpage and my new logo. Basically, CXO4, we help clients to do their go-to-market transformation. But we help them in a different way than a consultancy. We go from strategy to execution. And what this means is we help from a strategy perspective, but then we ensure that every step of the way is done so that the execution happens and the results happen. And that is a little bit different to the traditional way of doing like consulting or helping clients. And most of the clients that we have today are, because of the background of CXO4, that we are 4 executives, C-level executives, ex-IBM, ex-Microsoft, ex-Accenture, ex-Avanade. Basically, what we have is a lot of Latin America clients that want to go into the US, and they want to see, okay, how do I do it? And then there's a lot of US companies that I know from all my career in IBM and Pega, as you were mentioning, that they want to have a nearshore operation, or they want to have also presence in Latin America. So somehow those are this doesn't mean that we are not in Europe, we are as well, but because of our background, that we are, the 4 of us are global, the 4 of us have worked in the US, in global and in Latin America, most of the clients are coming either from Latin America or from the US, and we are making these connections with them to the other geo. And it's working well, and I'm very happy to be here, and Amalgama is one of my key clients, so I'm happy to help you as well.
Thank you, and thank you for that explanation. We'll be sure to link to COX4 in the chat. So anyone that's interested in finding out more can certainly do that. Anna, I'm going to come to you next. Anna is the chairwoman and former CEO of Amalgama. I have a little fun fact, Anna, that I want to ask you about. I learned in my 1.5 years working with Amalgama that you were originally the sailing coach of the co-founders of Amalgama, and super curious about how all that came together.
I would love to say that I was their sailing coach, but no, we were all like like sailing mates. We actually grew up together. I seem more mature, that's why probably you think I'm the coach. But actually, Tomás, Jose, and I, and Gonzalo and I, sail since we are like 7 years old. And we actually been together each weekend since then, I feel. So we know ourselves from other places, and that's a very nice thing. And I think that it makes a lot of the culture in Amalgama.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And thank you for correcting me on that. For some reason, I thought it must be the maturity part, like you said. Well,
Probably.
Gonzalo, not to call you immature, I'd like to introduce you. Gonzalo is a digital strategist, coach, agile leader, and as we just talked about, one of the co-founders of Amalgama. Gon, I think it would be great to hear it in your words, a little bit about, Amalgama's value proposition, who we are and what we do and who we do it for.
Sure. Well, thank you, Travis, and thank you, Carola and Anita, to be here. I'm Gonzalo, one of co-founders. As Anita said, we know each other since we are very young kids. We know our strengths and weaknesses, so we know each other in depth. Yeah, at Amalgama, we are a digital agency. What that means is that we help startups and established companies building and scaling digital businesses. And we know each client has unique needs. So the way we help them is building a best scope team. We provide best scope teams depending on their needs. Could be more in strategy, product development, design, user experience, marketing. So depending on the need, we make up a team for that specific need. And to be clear on what that means, what we do specifically is research, we do strategy, we do product design, product development, and growth for each client. That's basically, to be brief, what we do.
All right. Well, thanks, Gon. Thank you for being part of this today. Taking the
You're
time.
welcome.
So I think I'd like to start with a question, so we can set the table for this conversation to all of you, to sort of, let's briefly describe or define or speak about your understanding of intrapreneurship and how it differentiates from entrepreneurship. I think that's something that even I had to do some thinking and sort of research on and preparing for this. So I'm going to open the floor up to all three of you, and would love to hear your individual thoughts on that. Carol, why don't we start with you?
Well, I always I think that in terms of the execution of what you do as an intrapreneur or as an entrepreneur is the same. You feel this is yours. You own it. You own your job independently if you're an entrepreneur or an entrepreneur. The big difference is that in an entrepreneur, you have things that a company has that are solved for you. When you're an entrepreneur, you have to do the end-to-end or build your own team to make it happen. But the fire, the energy, the execution that you as a person have as an intrapreneur or entrepreneur makes you unique and makes the things happen. You own it. You feel that ownership. You don't relax ever. So I think that is the big difference between an intrapreneur and an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I believe I really agree on what Carola is saying. I think there are certain similarities between the two profiles, certain skills that both profiles need, which are proactivity, for sure, vision, curiosity, and resilience. Those are skills that I believe both entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs should have. The main difference is the context, the environment, and resources, as Carola just mentioned. Within a company, for sure, you have more resources. You're in a safer, sometimes, place, rather than an entrepreneur, where the risk is much higher, for sure, because many times your decisions will define whether you succeed or you fail completely, and you have to close your business, so those are the main differences.
Yeah, maybe on my side, pretty much the same. I really think that in both cases, you are actually owning what you are doing. You are getting out of your comfort zone and you are taking risks. Of course, the context changes a lot. I think that maybe an entrepreneur is more like creating or building something from scratch, right? And while like the intrapreneurship is more about maybe a mindset or a philosophy. But in the end, you are like a problem solver in both cases, right? I think that probably a good entrepreneur looks like a very good listener, someone that really works on understanding the needs, clearly has a lot of flexibility and tons of autonomy. And when you listen to that, you are kind of representing an entrepreneur, right? So I think they have a lot in common, but as everybody was saying, maybe the context or the environment might be different.
Yeah, thank you, all three of you. I mean, I agree and align with what you're saying, and it feels like we have a common thread here around mindset. Seems to be what runs through this for all of us. Carol, considering your journey coming from IBM, big complex organization like that, to being the founder of a firm like CX04, how has your entrepreneurial mindset played a part in that?
So first, the part that is not in my CV or my bio, because it's like strange, is that I began as an aerobic instructor when I was 16 to pay for the university, so that then I could go to IBM and then Pega and then become again an entrepreneur. So it's like I did like the whole circle. And when I was an aerobics instructor, I also put a business of selling clothes, aerobics clothes, because I needed the money. So I really think that the key success factor is to have that grit of understanding what you need and what as Anita said, listen to what the market needs so that you can go and adapt to it. When I was and one thing that Anita said that I do think that also happens in some companies, and as you said, I was in a very big, complex company like IBM, in a medium-sized company, and then I am an entrepreneur today. So how do I manage all that complexity, and then I can do and put on the lights and down the lights and do my own presentations? Believe me, it's a challenge. Because after 20 years, it's a challenge to do everything. When I had a whole team of people doing it for me. But the reality is that I feel that you can, if you are in a big, complex organization, you can still dissect where you can focus on and where you can add value. And the key success factor in any size of companies is to be very clear with, if you have a boss, with your boss, if you are alone as an entrepreneur with yourself, or even with your investors, is what is the priority, where are you going to focus on, what is the deliverable, which are those KPIs, and then measure and manage it. If you are an entrepreneur or an entrepreneur, that happens all the time, and you have to do it. Now, in IBM, when I got in, I was lucky to get into the PC company. That was an area that was just emerging. And in that moment, e-business began. E-business, the web, but it was called e-business because IBM put that name. And in IBM Argentina, I was in Argentina, nobody understood what that was. They were like, what is this? What is the web? This was beginning. And I said, give it to me. Oh, you want it? Take it. Nobody understood it. Nobody wanted it. So being always, if you are in a company, trying to take things that are like difficult or nobody knows, or they are the things that are like the trends, that will also get you to that curiosity, creativity, innovation, and be able to be an entrepreneur or entrepreneur. So that has been my way of being always an entrepreneur and entrepreneur, taking the things that nobody wanted, or they were trends, they were difficult, nobody understood them, and make something out of them.
That's great. I think I definitely want to come back to some of those points later in the conversation. Well, you said something interesting to me around innovation and the mindset of innovation. And Anna, I'm going to ask you around that at Amalgama as the chairwoman. How have you and how do you continue to leverage an entrepreneurial mindset to drive innovation in the company? As well as, I know we're a digital agency, but we're still always having to drive our own digital transformation. So if you could give us some thoughts around that.
Well, I hope so. Definitely, I think we, because all of us try to promote a lot the MVP mindset for everything. So let's do it, and let's get to that big objective, but in very small steps, like understand like the chunks of like the parts of the project or whatever we want to achieve. And I mean, I think that it's important to first of all make sure that we all understand the need of what we want to achieve, right? Like, why are we doing this? As I mentioned before, then think about the best possible MVP, even if it's a product, it's a culture, strategy, or whatever. And usually today you have lots of like no-code tools or even SaaS platforms that can help you achieve that MVP. Maybe it's not perfect for what you need for, but might help you understand a solution in the short term, right? And definitely understand like in the end if you are doing a good job or not, right? So I think retrospectives is something that we kind of always look for, and understanding what is working and what is not working. And I think that here is super important also that it is very important to validate something, but it's also very important to invalidate something, right? If it's not working. So I think that mainly around that. And of course, making sure that we are moving forward, adding value, no? Like in the different stages, like whenever we get to a milestone, like after that, like, well, what value are we adding in the next big milestone, right? But I think that the key is like the MVP mindset, right?
Yep, that makes perfect. That makes sense. God, I'm going to go straight to you off of that. As you identified, in your differences between entrepreneur and entrepreneur, I mean, you've certainly been on, along with Anna and your co-founders, an entrepreneurial journey for a long time with Amalgama, but have developed a very strong entrepreneurial culture within the company and within the teams, as also as Anna was referencing. Could you share some strategies or programs you've implemented to inspire that culture?
Sure. I believe that from the very beginning, we developed a culture where everyone had a voice. We promote that everyone could say whatever or share ideas. That's from the very beginning. Along the way, some very specific thing that we created was having a horizontal structure. where people had the opportunity to foster any initiative and has the ability to take that into execution. Not just, hey, I have an idea, well, but things are this way in this company, and this is the way it is. No, with this structure, we gave the possibility to everyone that had an idea to actually take it into execution and build something from there. That's very aligned to an agile mindset, where teams have ownership of their own work. Teams are closer to clients' needs, so they know better what their service we need to actually provide should be like. So if there's any opportunity to improve that service, they are the ones that should actually raise their hands and do something. If we don't give that opportunity, or we have a culture where mistakes are punished, then nobody would ever share their ideas. So that's the main thing I would say we did. Something very something that we believe is essential for that is constant communication, feedback, being open to feedback, not only giving feedback, but receiving feedback, and having a clear goal. I think Anna mentioned this, that we should have a clear vision of where the company is heading to, clear goals. So we are constantly trying to make that vision clear and giving all the sources to the teams, to the people, all the information. That's very, very critical, because you have to be opening, let's say, numbers, results, profits, salaries. We opened everything. It took time, for sure. It took time, and we had to do it in very short steps, but that helped us a lot to provide them the sources they needed to actually make a decision. Because if you don't have the information, which proper decision you will ever make, so that was, like, I would say, the main change, or the main endeavor we did.
Great. Here I'm going to take a pause, because I'd love to do a poll here for our audience, but also for the three of you. So here, these mindset traits, if you will, and would love to know from our audience, sort of a self-assessment, which of these entrepreneurial traits do you identify with the most? Some of the things we heard were risk-taking, innovative, curious, adaptable, and resilient. So we'll put this poll up, and we'll continue with our conversation, and we'll go back and take a look. But what would you say, Carol, out of those five would be the one that, if you had to pick one, that you would identify with the most?
Repeat to me, because I don't see the poll yet. Curious,
risk-taking, innovative, curious, adaptable, resilient.
Honestly, they are all important, but I would say this risk-taking and is the one that usually people are more afraid of, as Gonzalo was saying, right? The it's okay to fail. It's important to have that mentality, that mindset. Is okay, and the sooner you fail, the better, because that will make everybody go to the next opportunity. So fail fast, and then move on. It's a mindset, and it's a risk-taking type of activity that is usually the most difficult to have when you're an employee, because you're afraid to fail, right? So giving that, the risk-taking is one of the most important for an employee and life, I think.
Yeah, it's a segue into a question around that is, can with that in mind, can you recall or account the time when an entrepreneurial approach significantly impacted a project you are overseeing?
So you're talking to me also?
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Continuing with you.
So I remember once I was in a position in Latin America, and my boss was like, I mean, we were in 2001. You may remember that. You might not remember because the people that were not in Argentina, they don't know, but there was a huge crisis there, like it happens in many countries. But in this situation, and yes, you will relate to this because in the US it's happening right now, we had a very big array. We have to take a lot of people out. So in IBM in that moment, imagine, these are numbers that I don't remember, but imagine that we were 1,000 employees, we had to reduce to 200. So it was a massive situation, massive challenge. And I remember in that moment, I was one of the people that had to be, so the general manager went out to the world, to the IBM world and say, hey, hire whatever employee of mine you want. Hire them, the best. So they came to me and they offered me to go to Mexico and they offered me a lot of things, but I couldn't get out of my country because I have a baby and I was just divorced. Oh my God, it was a disaster. So I said, please, I need to stay on Latin America. Okay, so they gave me another role that was Latin America, but I didn't even understand what it was. So in that moment, I began studying and things, and I said, oh, I can sell this. This was, I invented a role of content development. By the way, this is 2001, or 2002. So I was, okay, I said, maybe we can do all the content development on this new web to all the world, or at least speaking Spanish, Portuguese, and English. So I went and I made it my business case and I began selling it to global, because global, if they did that, they would like reduce their funding in like $4 million a year because of the situation that Argentina in that moment was very, I mean, it was very economic to buy our services. And they finally did it. So IBM won, they reduced $4 million in their expense. IBM Latin America won because they got dollars injected into Latin America and to Brazil and Argentina, because what we did was a center in Brazil and Argentina for Portugal, Spain, and all the US and some other Spanish countries. And basically, the people that was going to be fired, we could retain like 150 of them to work for this project. So it was a win-win-win, right? And it was all based on a little bit of desperation, because I was like, we cannot be taking out so many people, and how can we solve it? And probably you will ask this question later, but the best ideas happen when there is desperation, when there is stress, right? They don't happen when you're like relaxed. Well, sometimes, but usually. And that was, I would say, in my view, a before and after in my life on how you can really change the world. Small pieces, but you can really change the lives of people because of innovation, because of curiosity, because of taking some risk.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. Thank you for that. On a similar question for you, do you have an example from your career experience where an entrepreneurial, let's say entrepreneurial culture played a crucial role in driving change or fostering some type of innovation?
Well,
Unfortunately, sorry, Joanna, go ahead. Sorry.
Sorry. No, it's me.
Yes, Anna.
Okay, I go. I think that I have many examples, but I think that the best one would be like Amalgama's value proposition. I think that at Amalgama we managed to get away like a long time ago, from like the software factory value proposition of selling just resources, right? And like it's transactional, you tell me what to do, like with a bullet list, and I'll do it. And we kind of like managed to get closer to be more as a like a digital partner, or what Gon told that at the beginning, where we actually work together with our clients, right, to actually get the best possible solution. So we kind of co-create there. And I think that that is what really sets Amalgama apart today. And that, I think it was clearly an achievement of many people along the way, like adding their different perspectives while working with our own clients, right? And I think it was like the sum of that, of like many micro individual learnings taken into account in the final like evolving value proposition, right? So I think like a very good example is Amalgama's value proposition, which in the end is what drives the innovation, and what drives the innovation in our clients, and what drives the business in Amalgama, right? And I think it was through a lot of conversation and this culture Gon was mentioning before.
Yeah, from listening to Carola, listening to Anna, a lot of this is coming really close to resilience, right? Like really resiliency. You know, I think since they're so linked, since resiliency is so linked to entrepreneurship, could you share an example of you know, from your experience that sort of illustrates that connection?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think resilience is one of the key skills that both entrepreneurs and intrapreneurs should acquire, or should have innate. I mean, you know, if you're a company where innovation is on first line and trying to get new things all the time, improve processes, improve the way we work, for sure, ton will fail, or at least, or maybe, I mean, they work for a period of time and then you have to dismiss them. So so that's why I believe resilience is so important, because if you, maybe we don't have a culture of punishment, you fail, or any initiative fail, but if you don't have the resilience as a skill, then your project or your endeavor, whatever you're doing, fails, and you get frustrated, demotivated. You know, you need, like, you don't have to lose your composure. You know, you have to get back on your feet again, try to get feedback, try to understand why it didn't work, what could be done better. Maybe it wasn't too MVP, maybe it had to fail, maybe sometimes, and this is a perfect example that you asked, there are many processes that we improved in a very structured way we used to innovate, that I can explain later, where the improvement of that process, maybe it didn't succeed completely, but if from that 100%, 20% worked, it's infinite superior than 0%. I mean, so we've improved processes where we gathered a lot of information, we did a lot of analysis, we put that into real work, and only 20-30% of that really worked. I actually call that a success, because now we do things better than we were doing before. Of course, I would have loved that the 100% worked, but 30% is much more than 0%. So we have to actually celebrate those improvements, and not having the doubt of what would have been if I tried to improve this or that. Just try. If it didn't work, then now we know more. You know, from any experience, you learn things, for sure. Other examples, we tried to, a couple of years ago, we tried to get it into the hardware space. We got a project, we did something internal first, we got a project, it didn't work out. Commercially speaking, you know, it didn't, we actually understood that there were a lot of complexities at that time, at least, that we weren't able to cover. So we learned a lot. We learned that we actually needed to learn more about certain things, and we needed to structure the company better to be prepared for that. And at that moment, we weren't so prepared. But we learned things that nowadays we can actually use. You know, we learn. Well, I can mention many things, but we learn actually how that works, which are the complexities, what we can do whenever we talk with someone about these specific things. We are in a much different position, you know. So that helps a lot. I like to have an optimistic view of every new endeavor, whether it succeeded or failed.
Sure, that makes sense. That speaks a lot to resilience. Makes me, Carl, I want to go back to you. Resilience is one thing, as Gan identified inside of Amalgama, which is we'll say is a more horizontal, less complex company than an IBM or some of the other places that you come from. And you know, curious about the balance that's needed there, you know, inside of that type of organization. And you want to balance being innovative and an entrepreneur, but you have to maintain stability because of this whole multi-layered structure that you're inside of, while you're overseeing transformative, you know, digital projects. What would you offer to our audience around that?
In my experience, and by the way, I was surprised when I came to IBM US. Just for you to have a context, I worked in Latin America for like 15 years, and then IBM brought me to the US. You know, that really they brought me to global so that I could learn a lot of the IBM headquarters and then go back to Latin America. That never happened because I stayed in the US, but that was the concept. So they brought me to develop me. By the way, that is something that I encourage a lot, right? Make your high potentials, develop them so that they are fostering that entrepreneurial spirit and mindset. But basically, when I came here, what I was very surprised was that leadership really focuses. They understand. I mean, they need to make their numbers. They need to make their objectives, and they want you to go fast and furious towards those objectives. Nobody wants you to be stable, believe me. That concept of stability, I mean, nobody told me, oh, you have to maintain this stable, ever. They told me, we want more. We want more revenue, we want more profit, we want more product, whatever, but it was more. It was never keep this stable, please. Never in my life happened, at least. But yes, it happens that you do, as an entrepreneur in a company, you do need to put everybody on the boat. And that happens in Amalgama as well, probably, and it happens in every company. You need everybody to understand where you're going, how do you intend to arrive there, and what you need to be able to do it, and how you're going to measure it. Once you have everybody on the boat, then the ship will sail and go at fast and furious speed. So the key success factor is how do you make all these people that you need on the boat as soon as possible so that you don't delay the departure. If you depart that boat and you didn't put the people on the boat, you're alone in the middle of the ocean, And we say in Argentina, remando en dulce de leche, that's the thing that you don't want to have. What you want is to ensure that that boat has everybody and that everybody knows what they have to do, how they want, what is their role, what is needed to be achieved, and how they're going to achieve it so that it goes. That, I would say, is the big difference between working alone or in a small company versus a big, huge company. Because in the big, huge company, by definition, you need much more people on board. You cannot just go alone, because if not, you are alone and nothing happens, because you need other people. You need always to collaborate. So that is the key between what I would say an unstable boat and a sinking boat. But that is the key success factor. It's like, who do you need to do what and put them on the boat? And don't expect to have the whole company in the boat, because then you never do it. So that is the other type, the other problem, right? If you want perfection, I have a slogan that I use all the time: perfect is enemy of progress, and I put it everywhere I go in my life. Because if you pretend the 500,000 employees of IBM to be on board, you will never do it. You need to find who are the right people that need to be on that boat to drive it to the port you need. If you are trying to have everybody on board, you will never get out of the port. So that's why it's so important to that balance that we were talking about. Is about that more than stability or not stability. It's more about who do you put on the boat to do what? Clarity. Give clarity, and with the right people at the right time and fast. That is the key success factor in my view.
Yeah, very insightful. I mean, I imagine every organization has very similar challenges, potentially different challenges. Let's open up a poll to our audience around that. What are your organization's biggest challenges? Is it, when it comes to fostering an entrepreneurial culture? Is it a lack of support from leadership, resistance to change, insufficient resources, or a lack of clear understanding of entrepreneurship, especially as we've identified it here today? While we wait for those to come in, we've got a couple of questions from our audience that I'd like to pose to our panelists. The first one is from Samuel. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. Apologies if not. The question is, how, according to your entrepreneurship and digital transformation, can support development innovations in the field of improvement, health, and well-being of disabled persons and older adults? Ganyo, I see you nodding. You'd like to jump on that?
I was finding where the Q&A was, and I found it. So I was reading.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm reading the question again. Give me one sec.
Okay. I can. Go ahead.
You go first, then I can go later.
No, you go.
I'm not sure if this question goes directly to Amalgama. How we can support digital transformation and support innovations in this field? If that's the question, I would say that the way we do digital transformation is, I believe Carola mentioned it at the very beginning of the webinar. We try to be very close to the users, to the customers. So the way we help our clients is actually doing one of the services that we provide, which is research. We go out there and actually talk to people. We try to understand which are their problems are, what they're trying to achieve, what they're trying to which job needs to be done, and which products they are hiring right now, or how they are fulfilling those jobs, and understanding them. Then we can define a possible solution we try to build something very, very small and go out and test it with them, and then iterate based on that as many times as needed to get a feasible product, you know, and that's actually the way we would approach that problem.
Great. Well, I want to get to all the questions. So Anna, I'm going to ask you directly this one from Sarah. As entrepreneurial leaders, how do you encourage your team members to think outside the box and develop innovative ideas?
Awesome. Yeah, sure. I think that the first and most important thing is to make them part of it, right? Like from the founding and the grounding of anything that usually we want to develop innovative ideas for something else, right? So I think that making them part of the purpose, understanding why we are doing what we are doing, it's super, super important. And then I think that there's a lot in the implementation part, right? I think that to be close and to foster the spaces to actually be creative and think around it, it's super, super important. I think that in Amalgama, we do that very well. We have different types of dynamics, like the so-called rings, where you go and actually take a problem or an issue or a pain and work on that. Or even when, like Gon was saying, mentioning how we work with our clients, right? We have lots of different workshops where we actually make the time. I think that that's the objective, right? To make the time. Like usually, no, we don't want to do this because it's a lot of time and we already know what we want to do. Like, no, like just stop and think about it. So I think that that's a great way to foster innovation, like to have a space for that. And just one quick thing, this Friday at Amalgama, we are having like an open space that it's kind of a dynamic that is actually to foster innovation, right? So it's going to be on a very specific topic, but the idea is to actually make time to think about something else, right? And there is where innovation usually happens.
Great.
Just a quick comment there, Travis. Anna mentioned the rings. The rings are basically a team built by anyone in the company that wants to improve any process or whatever. It could be how we improve diversity in the company, for instance, or a process that we provide a service we provide to our clients, and people can join to that team. You leverage others interests or others capabilities, people that want to improve that specific process or service or whatever within the company. That ring has a specific goal. They are self organized and they deliver an improvement afterwards. So that's.
Sorry, and just to add one more thing that I think that it's key in these spaces, that like it's not only allocating time, but also making the right questions, right? Like if, for example, Gon as a founder comes and tells everybody what we need to do and where to go, it's like everything will be solved, but probably the solution won't be as robust as Amalgama is today, right? So I think that it's about thinking that dynamic as well, and proposing the right questions that everybody needs to answer, right? And there you have like diversity in general that helps a lot to building a more robust solution.
Great. Well, I want to make time for our last question. Coral, this one comes from Matthias. He asks, how can you make a company mission, vision, and goals something everybody knows and assimilates beyond giving a presentation?
Yeah, when people come in, it says, right, it's typical. You have the onboarding, you have, okay, it's a mission, vision, values, never talk again about that. That is a very common issue, especially I would say in large corporations, but it can happen also even in smaller companies. I think that is very important to assimilate. And if you think what I was talking about the boat, that is exactly the point, right? Is making everybody gets in the boat means understanding why we are doing this, what is our mission, how we are going to do it, vision of how, and then the values, right? Which are the values that drive me to do it. And I think that the key success factor is to give examples every quarter, right? Call in smaller groups. I mean, the leadership team is like, Travis, why are you doing this? How what you want in life gets with the values, gets with the mission and vision that Amalgama is having. In my case of CXO4, it's simple because I created it. So my vision was always, okay, it's my time to go back and give back to my community. I have worked for 30 years. Now is my time to give back all this knowledge in a way that everybody can pay for it, because if not, it's too expensive. So, but again, that vision and that mission and those values have to be linked to every employee that you have in some kind of way, and asking for that question. Every quarter, ask 1 or 2 employees, why are you doing this? Why? How is this linked to our mission, vision, values? Will make everybody remember why are they there, and also link it again. I think that is very useful, and I have used it before in IBM, in Pega. And by the way, when some of that doesn't click, is the moment that you have to leave that company as well. I mean, when some of those are not really linking, make a favor to yourself and to your company. Just realize it's not working.
Yeah.
And it's totally okay as well, because nobody can pretend all the world to be in line with the same mission, vision, and values. That's why you choose a company or another. And I think that is very healthy to do. So if you don't have it from your bosses, Matthias, go and ask for it. Say, hey, I would like to have this workshop, this conversation, to see how everybody's aligned to this mission, vision, goals.
That's
It's a
great.
good way to get it.
Yeah. Well,
Travis,
yeah, go ahead, Gon. We're just about out of time.
I have 2 examples there that I think they fit in. One comes from when I was in my early 20s. I worked at Ernst & Young, immense, huge company. And I remember I was just part of staff, very low level. And I remember the director from the company here in Argentina, which in Argentina there were 1,000 employees, took the time to meet with people from the staff, just for a coffee, 15, 20 minutes. He took the time to talk about whatever things and the company's vision. So that's I think it's a very good example. And something from Amalgama, we are more a purpose-driven company than vision-driven company. We worked a lot around this last couple of years, and we refined it with the people within the company. We all together gathered, we did a lot of dynamics and activities, and we ended up having something that represented all of us, or most of us at least. The same we did with our values. We had our values, we knew we needed to refine them, and we did a lot of dynamics, and we ended up having the values that we believe represented us better.
Thank you for that, Gon. Well, Anna, I'm going to put you on the spot real quick in this last minute, in sort of a lightning round. Could you share one key takeaway or thought or even word to our audience to remember and take away from this?
Yes, I think that maybe actually looking at the answers of the poll, that it was the lack of understanding from leadership is sometimes we don't have the right conversations, right? I work a lot in big organizations as well. And I think that sometimes we need to empower ourselves and make the right points, you know, to actually do it, because it's easy to say, now here they don't listen to me, or like this doesn't work. But I think it's much better if we just own it and just go. And of course, we are going to have lots of barriers in a way, and mainly in corporations might be much difficult. But in the end, I think that it's more on our mindset, and as Carolina was saying, like touching the right people. Even in Amalgama today, we are 70 people, you know, and of course you need to talk to somebody else to actually make something, or not. It's not that every idea it goes through, right? The thing is that in Amalgama, you just foster an environment that actually makes it to be more efficient. And sometimes in corporations, you can find more like insecurities, or people that are not intrapreneurships in their mindset. So I think there you have to have a lot of resilience, like Gon said, and try to push it all the same, right? Because in the moment you transform yourself in a victim, you lose, and you need to go, like Carola was saying, right? Like, so I think that's my take on this.
Thank you. That's a great closing thought. Well, we're out of time, sadly. This went super fast. We will follow up with the poll results in our socials, so please keep a lookout for that. We'll also include it along with the link to a replay of this webinar, or recording of this webinar. Thank you, Carola, Gonzalo, and Ana, for being panelists today, and thank you everyone who joined or is maybe seeing this on a later date in a recording. Please take a look at COX4 and look at what Carola is doing, and share that with anyone in your network that you think would benefit from that. And please follow us at amalgama.co, or you can also find us on socials. So thank you all for being here and for joining us, and look forward to having continuing this conversation offline. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.